Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This evening I'm going to be doing a review of a mini-series from Denmark, Danish language English subs. This comes into two parts. Part 1 was made in 1994, Part 2 in 97, directed by Lars von Trier, and this mini-series is called The Kingdom. Now, The Kingdom has since been remade into Kingdom Hospital in America. I think Stephen King was behind that, so if you like that one and you want to see where it all originated from, then Lars von Trier's The Kingdom is actually the original. So, Part 1 has about 4 episodes, for about an hour each. So the overall Part 1 goes for about 4 hours, and then you've got Part 2 that goes for around about the same time. So the overall feature lasts around 8 hours. So it's definitely not a typical movie, it's more of a mini-series. So the story to this mini-series is as follows. Lars von Trier's bizarre gothic mini-series takes place in Copenhagen's Kingdom Hospital, a gleaming edifice to science built on an ancient tribal burial ground. After elderly patient Mrs. Drusa is visited by a ghost of a young girl, all manner of supernatural phenomena start to become noticed. Add to this the secretive behaviour of a disgraced Swedish surgeon, phantom ambulances, and a massively accelerated pregnancy, and nothing at the Kingdom is what it seems. So I'm not going to give you a detailed synopsis of each subplot because it would just take way too long. But basically what we have here, it's a hospital in Copenhagen called the Kingdom. Now the Kingdom is the most medically advanced hospital in Denmark, so it's the most famous. Now this hospital was built on an ancient burial ground, therefore some very strange things are occurring. So the overall central idea is surrounding the ghost of a young girl. Now this elderly patient who keeps checking herself in for reasons that are very minor, and all the doctors at this hospital think that she is just making it all up. Now she is making it all up, but she's making it up for a reason, and the reason is that she can connect to ghosts, and that she wants to find out what this little girl who's haunting the corridors of this hospital, what she wants. She can't rest, and that this elderly patient, she's got a very kind heart, and she wants to be able to let this little girl let go of her terrible secret. So the secret is connected to the hospital many, many years ago, and it uncovers something that is very sinister. And then you've got subplots basically featuring a disgraced Swedish doctor who hates Denmark. He has some secrets of his own. You've got a medical student who is very bizarre and quite sick, and he has a thing for an older nurse. And then you've got a very freakish, rapidly accelerating pregnancy. So all of the subplots basically combined, they gel together, and it all has to do with this freaky sort of hospital. So if you want to know more, please go out there and see this mini-series for yourself. I do apologise for the very vague description, but it is very hard to give a detailed synopsis and rundown of the mini-series because there's just so much to contend with. So yeah, I hope I've done a good enough job with that to at least make you want to see what I thought of this very challenging mini-series from a very ambitious director. So my thoughts on the mini-series. Initially, I didn't like it. Now, Part 1 and Part 2, Part 1 is very different from Part 2. So if you think Part 1 is going very slowly, I urge you to keep with it because Part 2 utilizes the slow burning approach that Part 1 has. Now, Part 1, as I said, very slow, and it really gives you a detailed insight into each and every character. Now, initially, I thought it was overrated. I didn't like the way that it was approached. I thought it had typical pretentious quality that comes with Lars von Trier, and that's what makes him, you either love him or hate him because of that. Personally, I love the guy, but I was kind of thinking that he was a little bit too self-indulgent in Part 1. There were characters that I didn't feel really were necessary. I didn't feel had a progression to the story. It was mainly a distraction, and there were some lingering shots that I thought were pretty cool to start with, and it really set the tone for the film. But then when it happened time and time again, I thought, okay, this guy's showing off a little bit. But I wanted to keep it going because in typical Lars von Trier fashion, you never know what to expect around the corner. He's like a manic depressive. You're a certain mood one day, and then you're another mood the other day. So, and that's exactly what it is. It's like a manic depressive. You go into one episode expecting something, you don't get what you expect, and just when you think you're catching on to the mood, something completely changes. And that's what kept me wanting to know more. Even though I thought the first series was a little bit slow, it just kept me captivated because of the way the characters have been portrayed, how the dialogue has been written, and it just keeps you in a trance. So although sometimes you think it might be dragging, the quality of the film work just keeps you in your seat. And when, as I said, when the second series, which I actually feel is a hell of a lot better, when the second series kicks into gear, you really feel that there was a purpose to that slow burner. So it was a very rewarding experience. And if you're a low attention span, you're probably not going to get through this. But if you can get through the slow burning stuff, you really can appreciate it the second time around because you know exactly what Lars von Trier was trying to do. So it's an extremely unpredictable miniseries. It is extremely weird, very, very bizarre. Now, typical Lars von Trier, you're probably expecting some very graphic and provocative sex scenes and violence, but you're going to be surprised because this is a very unnerving psychological horror film. Now, there are so many genres put into this film, but I would say the main focus is horror, and it's so slow in creeping under your skin, and when the horror starts to happen, especially in the second series, it just makes it even more freakier because you get a detailed insight into the way the hospital is run and into these very strange people. Now, character development was absolutely magnificent. These are some of the most colourful characters I've ever seen on screen, and because Lars von Trier is so patient, he makes it even more colourful, and it makes it look like you're going along the ride with these people and that you can connect to them and that they are very real people, but they're kind of people from a different dimension because of the dark humour that Lars von Trier has put into it. Now, there are some scenes that are just totally random and have you scratching your head thinking, what the hell is wrong with Lars von Trier? I actually found it to be a very, very funny miniseries, but it's very dark, so you're kind of laughing at things that you probably shouldn't. And then there are other scenes thinking, what the hell am I watching? There was one scene in particular where my brother came into my room asking something, and he saw what was happening on the screen, and he said, what the hell do you watch? And that's the kind of film that it is. It's just far out. You're kind of thinking to yourself, what the hell's going on? But everything is explained. So everything makes sense in a very, very bizarre way. So if you're after something that is very different, very unique, not afraid to take some chances, then this miniseries is definitely for you. I would say if you find the first series a little bit boring, the second one will completely make up for it. Now, the acting was phenomenal. An all-star cast. I can't recall the Swedish doctor's name, but he is one of the most well-known actors in Sweden. Unfortunately, he died, so he couldn't make part 3. And that's my biggest problem with the series, which I'll go into very soon, is that they couldn't make part 3. But basically, the Swedish doctor was a very good actor. He absolutely brilliant in portraying a very damaged soul. You've got Soren Pilmark, who is another very well-known Scandinavian actor. You've got Stellan Skarsgård, who was a legend. And you've got numerous other, like Thomas Bo Larsen. So if you're a fan of Scandinavian cinema, it's the who's who of Scandinavian actors. So the actors had a chance to portray very interesting characters because the Lars von Trier writing the film, absolutely brilliant. He portrays something that is so humane. In the film, there is a lot of emotions. There's funny, there's disturbing, there's stuff that will just creep you out totally, and there's stuff that is very humane and very touching, very, very sad. And that seems to be the theme of a lot of Lars von Trier films, in that he touches on subjects that people are very uncomfortable with, and he does that perfectly. And it's no surprise that this guy has been through things like depression, because he seems to understand the mood perfectly. And although you get scenes in this film that at first will disgust you, he brings a certain humane quality to it that makes it very touching and very emotional, and that's something that no other director can really do. Now, my problem with the film is, well, I'll actually say what a miniseries needs is for you to want more at the end of each episode, and that's exactly what the film does to perfection. Unfortunately, the fact that these two main actors who played the two main characters, they died before part 3 could be made, and that's why I'm taking half a star off, because I can understand, it's tragic that Lars von Trier didn't get a chance to finish his masterpiece, because at the end of part 2, you're left wanting a lot more, because the intention was to make part 3. So there are a lot of loose ends that haven't been tied up, and it kind of feels like an incomplete piece. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Lars von Trier gets the opportunity to make a part 3. Obviously, the standout characters won't be there, but I think something is better than nothing. It just has to be tied up, because I feel it was on the verge of being something absolutely unbelievable. But the fact that it's unfinished, there's no closure, I felt it really does hurt the series. So I'm taking half a star off it, but I do feel it's one of the best miniseries I've ever seen. If you're a fan of Stephen King, if you're a fan of the mood that he has in films like Pet Sematary, you're going to love this one. It's a very low budget sort of feel. It's a very soap opera feeling to it, but it's a soap opera that is mixed with themes that you don't see in everyday soap operas. So it's a very unique experience. I'm going to say it's a movie because it does contribute into something that is both very, very emotional, and you don't get that in soap operas. So it has the soap opera feel, but it's very misleading because it does feel like it's just a massive movie. And I feel that Lars von Trier is an absolute genius. Yes, there are pretentious qualities to the film. The colouring is very red, so it kind of feels like you're in hell. And it just contributes the fact that it kind of feels like the hospital is a character of its own. The hospital is a demon, and that everybody in this hospital is possessed by this demon, and that's why all the strange occurrences are happening. And all these strange occurrences make the characters even more creepier. But as I said, they're painted in a way that you can sympathise with them as well. So as the plot thickens, it gets better and better and better. So I would urge you to watch out through the entire length. It's a tragedy that it hasn't been finished yet, but fingers crossed it can be. So overall, I'm giving this 4.5 stars. Lars von Trier is an absolute genius, and it's something a little bit different from his other films. So if you like Lars von Trier and you haven't seen this, or if you like the remake of The Kingdom Hospital, then definitely check out the original, because it's certainly something that every horror fan needs to have in their collection. Alright guys, that's my review. I hope you enjoyed it. Till next time, keep watching movies, and I'll see you later. Bye.